Sorry for the delay, folks, there, but welcome to the monthly Excel Business Intelligence Virtual Chapter webcast, webinar. We have a special person from Microsoft today. Before we get on with the presentation, we're going to go over some of the slides about the PASS community itself. One thing coming up in January is our Business Analytics Day in Chicago. This is a new type of one-day conference. If you're into business analytics, this will be a great place to go in the middle of January. It actually says 2 full-day sessions to select from, but I think it's only 1 day, but I could be wrong. Also, their virtual chapters are all over the place in the PASS community. You see ours on the top there, but there's a couple more coming up in the next 2 weeks. These are free webinars, just like you're viewing today. There's many virtual chapters. Go to the sequelpass.org/VC site, and you can even go to language-specific virtual chapters. We have some upcoming SQL Saturdays. If you never attended a SQL Saturday, it's a great place to get free training, unless you have to pay for lunch there, which is still a good price for a free SQL Server, business intelligence, business analytics training. They're all over the world now, and there should be one near you every year. Also, if you're interested in volunteering for PASS, it's a great global community to be a part of, to network with, and be able to communicate with different people with the same technologies that you work with. So get involved if you haven't already. And the site has a LinkedIn, Facebook, and even a Twitter account, so all kinds of ways to follow the PASS community. Today we're doing a session on the Civic technology movement. Our featured speaker is Microsoft's Adam Heckman. I hope I got that right. Director of Technology and Civic Innovation at Microsoft. It looks like he's been working in the Chicago area with this concept, and he's going to present some neat ideas to us about technology and how you can develop some leadership as well as opportunities to help other people with this movement. So without further ado, I'm going to switch it over to Adam, and at the end I think he's going to have this survey up. If you want to get involved with what he's going to talk about, you can go to this survey on SurveyMonkey and go ahead and register with him. I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to Adam.
Terrific, thank you. And just give me a second to switch it. All right. Show. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. And can you see my presentation and only my presentation?
Yes, we can.
All right, terrific. Well, thank you for that introduction. You're right, I work at Microsoft, and my focus is on Chicago. I was born in Chicago and raised in Chicago, and very passionate about two things. I'm passionate about Chicago, and I'm passionate about technology, and specifically the intersection of technology and social justice. So I just made a couple of changes. I just want to make sure you can still see everything.
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'm part of a team that's rather unique. It's called the Civic Technology and Engagement Team at Microsoft. This is a very diverse and compassionate team that's focused on working with the people in our cities that are making the world a better place for everybody. This is a team that, as you can see here today, is in Chicago, Boston, New York, San Francisco Bay Area, and Seattle. And the charter of this team is to work with their local civic tech ecosystems to use technology that lights up solutions and partnerships that are created by everybody for everybody. And I'm going to describe civic tech in a minute, but just consider the work that we do as a collective effort across these cities. It's informed by a very inclusive and democratic approach, and this type of collaboration is a great environment to work in because, first of all, it fosters really terrific creativity, and it also ensures solutions that are able to meet the differing needs that we all face as humans, but especially those types of solutions to meet needs that we face living in urban environments. So as it relates to our cities and as it relates to our communities, We're problem solvers looking for other problem solvers, and hopefully one of those other problem solvers is you. So with that, okay, if you think about a city, and you think about all of the various things that make a city up. Cities are made up of varied communities, but they're also made up of a complex mesh that includes a bunch of systems, right? There's environmental systems and transportation systems, educational institutions, infrastructures,
Hey, Adam,
intricate, yeah.
are you on, it's still showing the first slide. Have you rotated through any slides?
I have.
Okay, we're only seeing the very first slide right now.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Wonder why that is. Bear with me for just a second. What are you seeing now?
Okay, now we're on new trends, now on complexity of city
Okay.
ecosystems.
Okay, that's
We've
cool.
probably missed the first 2 or 3 slides there.
No. This is just my well, maybe you did. The slide before that was this. You got that? And now we're in the complexity of ecosystems, right? You're seeing the complexity of ecosystems?
Yes, that's right.
Cool, thanks. So
And we
again,
can just see your GoToWebinar screen there too, if you want to pull that over.
let me move that over somehow. Okay. There we go.
Perfect.
So ecosystems. Any city is made up of a lot of different systems, and it's actually a wonder that it all works, but it does. So if you think about any one of these systems, if you think about the education system or the transportation system or anything else, any one of them is very complex. Pick the transportation system. So in a large city like Chicago, you have a commuter rail system and a very heavily used 150-year-old light rail system, the L. You have road systems, you have street systems, you have pedestrian systems and bike vehicle systems, and you have all of these different, and water taxis and water transportation because we're on 2 bodies of water. And so it's all extremely complex and it all intermingles with one another. And that's just one of the systems, right? Because you have all of the other systems that impact it. So if a school opens or a school closes, that impacts all the other systems. It impacts the economic systems and the transportation systems and the political systems, etc. So all of these things have to work to make a city work, and it just happens to work. Let me go to the next slide here. And then there are all of these new trends that are driving changes to those systems. And these new trends provide some opportunities, and it also provides some things that we have to be cautious about. And so hang on one second while I pull this up. You're still able to see this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, got it. First of all, there is the robust and growing civic tech communities themselves, which I'm going to describe for you next. But the abundance of data and the demand for a more accountable and more transparent government, along with the development of easier access to data and easier access to tools to secure that data and to collect that data and to analyze that data, is creating a demand for new 21st century skills for all populations, and it's also driving political attention because you now have more people that are able to understand more things about their cities and understand more with more data about the impact of policy changes on the changes of all of those systems that I had mentioned before. So data is a key here. But there's still some challenges in making this work in the real world. In addition to all of these, with the abundance of data and with the power of the cloud and with the access to technology that we have today, you can imagine a world where diseases have been largely eradicated, where there's ample opportunity for economic development for everybody, where poverty largely ceases to exist. But then there's also a darker scenario where you can think of that the same drivers that can bring positive change can lead to situations where you have an extremely bifurcated society of haves and have-nots, or where you have too much control over data that should be put out there, or that you have your privacy violated in ways that you don't expect. So which way this goes, or how you create the balance, is going to be very interesting to watch in the, I'd say, the decade to come. Okay, you can still see this? Do you see what is civic tech?
No, we're still seeing the new trends are driving change.
Why is this happening? I'm not exactly sure what. Let's see, move this window away. Another window is on top of your shared application. Move this window. What window would that be? How about if I just share my whole desktop? Would that help?
You can try that.
Sorry for the delay, folks. Keep jumping off of it. Hang on. Share screen. My screen.
All right, so
Is that better?
No, it all went blank.
Give it a second.
Yeah. Waiting to view your screen.
You see it?
Not yet.
Okay. Stopped. No one sees your screen. Okay, let's try this another way. On air showing screen.
There you go. Okay. We can see the PowerPoint.
Okay. So this is the slide that I was just clearing. Let me move this out of the way.
Our approach. Now we're seeing the Our Approach display.
Great. Let me go back. Okay, so these were some of the challenges that I was describing in making this tech work in the real world. So we talked about the positive side and what you could see aspirationally, and we talked about the dangers of it, along with some of the things that make it a challenge. Right? Integrating solutions into existing human and technological systems is one of those. You have existing systems like the ones that I showed. You can't just put technology on top of it and say, here, this is a new one. You're not going to replace the entire transit system and say, here's an app that does exactly what you would have wanted to do. And then evolving policy in light of rapid technical changes. You know, governments don't like risk. Governments exist so that you don't have a lot of risk, because the difference between creating a technology solution that is for a customer and doing one that is for citizens and community, folks in the community, is that you can change vendors, you really can't change your government. So there's a balance that has to happen with respect to the scale and respect to the risk and respect to what the potential outcomes are, because you definitely want the outcomes that were on the positive side and want to avoid the negatives that I had mentioned. Okay, so all that is to say civic tech. What is civic technology? I would say that if you ask 5 civic technologists what civic tech is, you'll probably get somewhere between 8 and 10 answers. I did a Bing search on civic tech, and I found some really good descriptions of it, so let me take you through a few of them. TechCrunch says civic tech is technology that's used to empower citizens or help the government make more accessible, efficient, and effective. So the focus here is on how you help citizens gain more efficient access to government services. That's one definition. Knight Foundation says that as residents engaging in their communities, including sharing their time, information, and resources. And I like this one because it really talks about citizen engagement, right? It's not just about our relationship with the government, it's about our relationship with each other and how people with technical skills can help make their communities better. And then Mika Sifri at Personal Democracy Media said, it's technology that's used for public good and betters the lives of the many, not just a few. So that means it's everything from the individual person who's found a way to create a mobile app to track when the bus is going to arrive, to large enterprise solutions that are going to be used to give people faster, better, more accountable access to government services. And then my absolute favorite one is Lauren Ellen McCann from New America says, civic technologies are tools we use to create, support, or serve the public good. And that just basically puts it right out there. What you define as the public good is where the creativity is in all of this. So you have civic technologists that are interested in specific things. For example, I know civic technologists that are particularly interested in building technology to help us monitor the city's water better, or people who have used civic technology to make safer bike routes to take the number of cars off the road, or people that have interest in civic technology to make sure that paratransit is easier to use. So whatever the community needs are, whatever the civic priorities are, you'll probably find people with technical skills that are willing to use those skills, use their time, volunteer their information to make those things better. And so this is Microsoft's approach. We look for the partnerships across organizations and sectors that are working in this space. People like organizations like Code for America, or like I mentioned before, Personal Democracy, New America, the organizations that are in your city that are working on civic issues, and then we connect them with community. We connect community problems with technological solutions with partners on the technology side, so people who understand data, who understand not just how to use it, but how to display it, how to gain insights from it, how to craft policy from it, how to make more equitable decisions with it. And then we also fund some research on the implications of technology on policy and society. So for example, if you're familiar with Dana Boyd's Data and Society organization out in New York, that's one of the organizations that we fund. So I was asked to make sure that people understand what a hackathon is in the context of civic tech. And hackathons are a very popular concept in civic technology. And just like civic technology, there's a lot of ways of thinking about what a hackathon is, but I found this on a site called Hackathon Guide. Break hackathon down into two parts. The hacking itself is hacking that the people on this call are probably familiar with. It's a way of creative problem solving. It doesn't have to be about technology. I've been to hackathons that were thinkathons. I've been to hackathons that were impactathons. I was just at one that was for citizens re-entering the workforce from prison, and it was an impactathon so that technical people or people with technology skills can hear from those re-entering citizens what their challenges were, so that when they built some kind of technological solution, eventually it would be hitting specific needs. So it doesn't have to be about the technology itself. And then a hackathon, it's any event of any length of time where people come together to solve problems. So another example is we run what's called the Urban Sustainability Challenge, where we pair up developers with community organizers to think about solutions to economic sustainability or environmental sustainability in a Chicago neighborhood. And that's fairly broad, but you can also do this in a way that's more narrow. For example, you can have a hackathon that focuses on a specific way of building economic sustainability in a neighborhood, or a specific way of environmental sustainability in a neighborhood, or a hackathon that leaves the question open and narrows the focus down to a technology. Okay, so with that, the way I want to spend the bulk of our time together is I think the best way to understand civic technology is to see some examples of civic technology. So these were some of my favorite, and we'll move fairly quickly. SeeClickFix is the classic example of civic tech. And if you read any books on civic tech, almost all of them reference SeeClickFix. Quite simply, SeeClickFix is a way for citizens and community members to make their voices heard with the government in a very specific way. So for example, if I am walking down the street and I see what looks to be an abandoned house or an abandoned vehicle or graffiti or a pothole, I can take out my mobile device, I can take a picture of it and submit it to SeeClickFix. Now, I'm assuming here you can see my, my mouse here. If you take a look at the upper right, one of the things that makes citizens not trust their government isn't so much that they don't think things get done, it's that they don't have any communication with them. The city is this big nebulous thing. It's the city, not someone at the city. So if you take a look at this example, somebody here has reported that there's graffiti at a particular address, and you'll first see that you get confirmation that it's been accepted, but you get automated tools that do that all the time. Notice down here though, there's actually a dialogue with the person that is going to be working on your particular issue. So they ask what kind of surface it's on, they ask where it is, they ask what kind of, how high is it, so that the person going out from the city that's going to fix this knows what kind of tools to bring with them. And then the citizen is advised as to the status of it, who's working on it, and how far along they are. So it's this true dialogue with the government. So I've heard people say that this is a pure form of democracy, because you have governments responding to specific needs of citizens. And you can see citizens can discuss it as well. So you'll see sometimes on SeeClickFix discussions of somebody saying, hey, I think this is an abandoned house, and somebody else saying, no, it's not abandoned, somebody actually lives there, or somebody saying, I've seen it used as a drug haven or whatever. AvePoint Citizen Services. So civic tech isn't always about an individual or a small group of people that are doing things as a one-off in a hackathon. Sometimes they're very well thought out enterprise services for both citizens and the government. So AvePoint is a partner that Microsoft works with that built this fairly simple portal that, like SeeClickFix, it allows you to request services, but it also allows you to see all the services, allows you to track the services. It's another way of having a dialogue with the city. Here's another one, Vacant Abandoned Building Finder. This was the result of a hackathon that was focused specifically on properties. And what it did was it ties into the city's 311 system. And if you live with a city that doesn't have 311, you're familiar with 911 where you call in emergencies. 311 is where you call in non-emergency services, right? So this pulls in data from the 311 system to help you map out the vacant and abandoned buildings and to also report those vacant and abandoned buildings. And then you can also do some analysis. Is there a particular area in the city where there's more there's a trend towards vacant buildings? If so, what else is going on in that neighborhood that may be driving that? So here's a situation where citizens can be putting their brain power into ideas on how to solve problems along with the government. Okay, this is my favorite example of, and by the way, I've broken this down so you're seeing all the housing ones first, and I'll do stuff on social services later, etc. I didn't want you to think that all civic tech was all about housing all the time. So large lots is a great example because I wanted to give you an example of where community organizers and activists are working with the government and working with civic technologists to solve a problem. And the problem here was that in Chicago, if you know, like any other city, if you don't pay your taxes, eventually the city takes the property. And Chicago had 13,000 properties, that it owned based on foreclosures and tax foreclosures. And when you have enough vacant properties or enough properties that are overgrown, etc., it starts to damage the neighborhood. It damages the property values around it. It also damages the spirit of the people that are living around it. And so Chicago always had this program where you could buy for $1 the property next to you, not $1 plus back taxes, but $1, the property next to you if it was abandoned or vacant. Here's the problem. You have to take a day off of work or something and to go to the city to figure out if that property is abandoned. Actually, you go to the county to find out if that property is vacant or abandoned, then the city to see if the city owns it, then another city department to see or another county department to see the boundaries of it, then back to the city to see if it's part of the large lots program, and all of this stuff, and it was just hard. And so some activists in some of the neighborhoods with a lot of vacant lots came to the civic technologists and said, can you make it easier for us to apply for, to see properties on a map, to see which properties are abandoned and which ones are right next to our homes, and which ones the city owns, and then give us a way to fill out the application online and track it. And the civic technologist said, we could do that, but what would be much better is if you change the policy itself. So instead of having to restrict yourself to the lot next door to the lot you live in, what if we expanded it so it was within a block radius of where you live? And the city looked at that and said, you know, that's probably a pretty good change. We'll change that, and you, the civic technology community, build the maps and build the application, and we'll pilot it. So the first place we piloted it was a neighborhood called Inglewood, where we had a lot of properties that were abandoned. Now, before we built this, the city over 3 years had moved 30 properties. The civic tech community built this tool and piloted it, and in 3 months they moved over 300 properties. Then they piloted it again in another neighborhood, East Garfield Park, 200 properties, and then Austin, 250 properties. So just making some changes to the policy plus adding some technology that we take for granted in the business world made a world of difference, and everybody wins. The government wins because they have properties off their books that are now taxable. The person who buys that property for $1 wins because now when they hold that property for a long enough time, they can sell it and participate in the economy. And the neighborhood wins because once you buy one of these properties, you have to put a non-combustible fence around it, you have to keep it clean or put a property on it or build an urban garden on it or something like that. Okay, let's switch focus now to public health. Our chief data officer in the city of Chicago got food poisoning at a restaurant, and so he became obsessed with foodborne illness. And he gave some focus on it and put this to the civic tech community and said, help us get in front of foodborne illness. The city has something like 18,000 restaurants open at any given time, not to mention how many kitchens there are, how many school cafeterias there are, etc. But we only have, I think, 20 or less restaurant inspectors. So the city needs algorithms to help figure out what are the highest priority places to inspect. So they've built these data models that give them different weightings for different things, but the thing that they should be giving the highest weight to is, did somebody recently get sick there? So they give you a way to either tweet that you just got sick at a restaurant or fill out this form, and that tilts the model so that you have a greater priority for those. I'm not sure that this is going to show up really nicely, but this is something I did with Excel. it's a little video using power maps, or if you're using Excel 2013, or the mapping feature if you're using 2016, to map out where the food inspections were and what the results were. So I'm just going to play this once, and if you can't see it, then I'm just going to move on. Okay, on to the next one. Let me wait for that to come up for you. All right, there are a whole group of civic technologists that are focused on water quality and water scarcity. In Chicago, the issue is not so much on scarcity, it's more on the water quality and the overabundance of water. So this was a solution that was done at a hackathon. It's you can go to the site, it's istheresewageinthechicago.com. And if you go to Is There Sewage in the Chicago River, you can either, it's very simple, you either see a big yes or a big no. And if you click on the yes, if it happens to be yes, you can see the segments of the river where there is sewage, where there's pollution. And if you want, you can go a level further and read the official report from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District that can tell you specifically where there's sewage and tell you what the chemical makeup is of that. So this is where a group of concerned citizens took advantage of the existing open data to make that data simple and easy to understand by the average citizen. Is there sewage in the Chicago River? This next one, wait till you can see this. Okay, this next one is called Drek Beach. And Drek is Yiddish, and I'll let you look up what it means. I'm not going to be the one to tell you. And basically, it is looking at the quality of the beaches. Beaches get bacteria. Sometimes they're beach closures. This was an app that was done over a weekend at the Urban Sustainability Apps Competition Hackathon, and it assigns a score to each beach to see what the top 10 are. Chicago has a lot of beaches, so you don't want to be on this list. Let's move to the complex issue of space and place. This is a tool called Edifice, and Edifice allows you to see information on every single building in the city of Chicago. And depending on what you want to see, there are different maps, and the maps are kept live because they tie into the city's open data portal, and they use OpenStreetMaps to create this. So I can see every building, I can see when that building was built, I can see where the demolitions have been and where they're planned, where the building violations are, where city construction is going on. And I can use this to analyze where I may see trends. So I may see that there happens to be a lot of building violations in a particular neighborhood. And why is that? Well, maybe they're all, a lot of these buildings are owned by the same shady building manager or property manager, and maybe there's something that needs to be done there. This one, I'll wait until it comes up. Hold on. Okay. All right, so this one is called Second City Zoning. Zoning is actually a very complex issue. And there were a group of folks that were sitting around at, it's called Shy Hack Night. It's a weekly meetup of the civic technologists of Chicago. And they were sitting around and they were actually talking about the game SimCity. And they apparently a bunch of them were playing SimCity the night before. And they said, wouldn't it be great if the world was more like SimCity? And they were saying, wouldn't it be great if zoning were more like SimCity? So they created Second City Zoning to make zoning as simple as SimCity. So how would you use this? Well, you might want to see, let's say you're a small business and you want to start a business and you want to figure out where you're going to put your storefront. Well, you might want to see where are good places to do that, but saying that taking a look at a zoning document and saying that a place is zoned as PD 244 really doesn't mean anything. But if you click on it and it tells you, okay, this is right around here are tall buildings and campuses and other large developments. And when you build here, you have to negotiate it with city planners. And it talks specifically about what they mean. And they have it color-coded so that green is primarily residential, blue is primarily commercial, yellow is primarily industrial. But you can get the full story by just clicking on it. And they actually added the music from SimCity to this too, so they got a little carried away. Okay, let's talk about policy. People in big cities are rightly interested in policy. They want to know what policy is on the table, and they want to know who the sponsors are of that policy, and they want to know how their alderman or how their committee member or however your city is divided up voted for it. So they created something called Councilmatic. I can find legislation by searching, so if I'm interested on legislation specifically on tow-away zones, I can search on that, or if I'm interested in dog parks, I can search on that. I can see what city council is looking at right now, and if it's routine or non-routine. I can see what's passed and what got shot down. I can see what my alderman has sponsored, or just what my alderman has voted on. So it's complete transparency, so you can hold your city council accountable. This is, the next one, I assume it's not come up yet, but the next one is another one of my favorites. This is a site that, let's wait till it comes up. All right, it's called Chicago's $1 Million Blocks. And a $1 million block is a block where the state is paying $1 million or more to incarcerate people for low-level crimes, particularly low-level drug crimes. And you can search by low-level drug offenses and then all offenses. And why are they doing this? They want to find neighborhoods and areas where instead of spending $1 million a block to incarcerate people for low-level drug crimes, maybe this is a good place to provide social services to, or addiction services, or medical services, or a place to add more police to take care of drug dealers. But basically what they're trying to do is tackle the problem of mass incarceration. And you can hover over any one of these blocks and see what the exact spending is. And it's really, really interesting. And it's not very surprising when you take a look at where those $1 million blocks are. They're predominantly on the west sides and south sides. So this helps people determine what kinds of things they want to advocate for so that urban residents can help the government tackle the problem of mass incarceration. Okay, I see that this one is still loading as well. Let me explain to you this one. We've all heard this. They say it's not right for you to embarrass somebody or shame somebody on the internet, that the internet is not necessarily a tool for embarrassment. And I would say that that's not universally true. Here's a site that embarrasses people in a very positive way. It's a site called mybuildingdoesntrecycle.com. So you can, by city law, if you have a building that has 5 or more residents, by law you have to provide recycling services. However, it's not an enforced law. So that means that for somebody to really get their landlords to offer the recycling services when they're hesitant, you have to report them. And so this, first of all, gives you a way to report them, but it also gives you a way to highlight the biggest offenders. And this was such a successful Shy Hack Night project that the woman who led this, her name's Claire Micklin, was asked to testify before City Council on the issue so that City Council, who took note of this, could figure out, well, maybe there is a way that we can effectively enforce this law. Okay, my next slide is a project that's called Expungio, expunge.io. Let's say you're 16 years old, you get into a stupid fight with somebody, you wind up getting arrested, and you think to yourself, well, no big deal, when I'm 18 my record gets expunged. Not true. You actually have to do things to get your record expunged. But when you take a look at what you have to do, it's actually quite complex. There are places, there are courts, there are forms you have to fill out, there's courts that you have to visit, there are people you have to talk to, and it's just not easy. So this was developed by a 22-year-old young lady who said the problem isn't that it's technologically backwards, the problem is that it's complex, and all you really need is a series of yes, no questions to be answered, and I can create a PDF that tells you specifically what you need to do. So she did it. At the top, you say when you were arrested. Was I over 18? Was I 17? Was I 16 or under? And then it says after your arrest, did you see a judge? Blah, 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 blah. And you answer about, I don't know, like a dozen questions, and at the end is a PDF that specifically says, okay, you sign page 2 of this. You and your mom sign page 3 of this. You go to take it to this courthouse, which is located in this place, and their hours are X, Y, and Z, and you give it to this judge. So basically taking complex bureaucratic procedure and making it simple. And along those same lines is mRelief. mRelief addresses a problem where you decide that you want some services from the city. Let's say that you run into some hard times and you want nutrition assistance. In some cities it's called SNAP, in some cities they're called food stamps. Whatever you call it, it helps low-income people buy the food they need to make sure that they're healthy, right? So what do? You take a half a day off of work, you go to the city and say, I need food stamps. They have you wait in line to get some forms. You fill out the forms, you come back in line, and they tell you, I'm sorry, you don't qualify for food stamps. Not you don't qualify for food stamps, but here are some other services, you don't qualify for food stamps. So what this does is this is just like Expungio. It asks you some questions, and then it tells you, yes, you qualify for food stamps, and here's where you should go. Or, no, you don't qualify for food stamps, but it sounds like from what you said, you need, you should probably get some housing counseling, or you should get some domestic abuse counseling, or drug rehabilitation services. And here's the place you go. Here's the person you speak to. Here's her phone number. Here's her hours, and it's very specific. But here's the beautiful thing about this solution. It's not just that they've made the process easy. They've recognized that not everybody in the city has a smartphone or has access to the internet. And so the way this works, it works with SMS messaging. And it's a very easy to use bot. I think at the most it asks you about 11 questions, and it says to you at the end specifically, yes, you qualify, or no, but. And they went from Chicago to Y Combinator. They had a great experience at Y Combinator, and now they're thinking about ways to apply this to a lot of different types of services because it's been that successful. Okay, I wanted to leave 10 minutes for questions, but before I did, a couple of things. I want you to think about the civic tech community as more than just a city government and then a handful of technical people who are willing to help out. It's actually a big ecosystem. This is the way that the civic tech community plays out in Chicago. There are for-profit civic tech businesses. There are nonprofit civic tech organizations. There are academic organizations that influence civic tech. There are universities that think about it. There are public places like libraries have become magnets for civic engagement and civic activity. The incubators in your town probably have some kind of a civic tech focus. Is Code for America that has brigades in a lot of different cities, or at least affiliates, like in Chicago we have Shy Hack Night and the Chicago City Data User Group. There's also foundations that are giving a lot of attention to this space, like the MacArthur Foundation. And my last slide, and we can open it up for questions after this, and then we can bring it all together with your survey slide. Microsoft provides a lot of resources in this space. And so where it's appropriate, we're providing Azure services, we're providing access to our open technologies and all the good stuff on GitHub. Power BI has turned out to be a very powerful tool for surfacing and visualizing issues. Tools you may be familiar with, like BizSpark for startups, YouthSpark for students, and our community tools. So with that, one other thing here. Please follow us on Twitter. MSFT Chicago is our Twitter handle. Let me wait till that goes up there. There we go. MSFT Chicago. And then our Civic Tech blog is Microsoft-Chicago. And they're not all topics specific to Chicago. A lot of them are focused on topics of national interest. So I will take it to the survey slide and then pass, folks. Can we open it up to questions?
Yes, it is open up for questions. There are none currently in the question area, but if anyone would like to submit one, you should see a question window and you can post the question in there.
All right.
I'll wait a second, see if anybody comes back.
And you better ask questions because I rushed through it to make sure we had the time.
How many of those hackathons do you see in the Chicago area?
You see quite a few. You know, a lot of the hackathons are affiliated with university groups, but there are also hackathons that are being focused on particular areas. For example, the American Diabetes Association has something called the Venture to Stop Diabetes, which is a hackathon that takes place not over a weekend like a lot of hackathons, but takes place over a period of a year. I'd mentioned the Urban Sustainability Challenge, which focuses on economic and environmental sustainability. The way that works is we take the first, 6 months prior to the actual hackathon, we go neighborhood to neighborhood telling people to think about their civic priorities and to organize, and then we put them together with developers, data analysts, data visualizers, UX people, and say over the next 6 months we want you each to get an appreciation of what you do and start thinking about a problem, scoping a problem, start solving it, and the actual hackathon, which is 3 days of no sleep, you should be just doing your fit and finish and getting your pitch all set. And then on the last day, we have some famous people come in and they get to pitch to them. We had one day, we had the CTO from Census come in and help them bring census data into it. And the next day we had DJ Patil, who is the White House chief data scientist, come and talk to them, and it was a great event. So these are events that are happening all the time, and they're not all just over a weekend.
Okay, well there's two questions now. The first one is there an online civic tech group as a start to get involved? This is from Janice.
Janice, I would say what you want to start with is going to codeforamerica.com or .org. I think it's codeforamerica.org, and that's a good place to start. And then do a Bing search on your specific community, because if you live near an urban area, chances are there are things going on all the time. And at Microsoft, we have a group of civic tech fellows who are trying to build out a map of civic tech activity in all the different cities. It's called civicgraph.io. If you find ones that are happening in your city, please enter them in Or if you just want to look at what other people have entered in, you can do that. But start with Code for America and work your way out from there.
All right, so Sonia asked, hi there, can you confirm how I get involved? Can I follow the link? So she might be referring to the SurveyMonkey link. Is that one for the involvement of the past community, I guess? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
how to
so
get involved. You want to get involved in past, you're not talking about the civic tech movement?
I think she's asking, how can I get involved? And then her second question is, can I follow the link? So I'm guessing Sonia's asking, is this link going to give me, help get me involved with civic technology?
Okay, so if you want to start building awareness of what's going on in civic tech, if you go to Twitter at MSFT Chicago, you'll see that one of the lists we put together are the civic tech organizations to follow. And if I were going to follow two organizations that really speak, I mean, there's so many. It's a very fragmented movement. But if I were to pick two organizations to follow, I would say Personal Democracy Media and Code for America.
All right, so what was that website again?
No, it was Twitter. I would follow on Twitter Personal Democracy Media and Code for America.
Okay, I thought you said there was a site that Microsoft had that they're organizing.
Oh, Civic Graph. Yeah, it's civicgraph.io.
Okay, I'm going to send that to everybody in the question window.
And Adam, just to jump in as well, that link there, the SurveyMonkey, attendees can go to that link and fill in their information if they're interested to learn more about civic tech in general, and also how they can get involved in civic tech as past members, and kind of what past is looking to do in this space as well.
All right, I think that's the end of the questions. Adam, we appreciate your time and your enthusiasm with this new area or growing area that's been around a while, and we look forward. Are you doing the other one that's next week?
I am. We're doing this again next week, and I want to thank everybody for attending and get involved. And if you don't find a civic tech movement in your city, start one.
Great. And please go to the sequelpass.org website in the virtual chapter area, and you might want to tell some friends about the presentation that's being repeated next week. And we again thank you for your time, and thank you for attending the Excel Business Intelligence Virtual Chapter presentation of civic technology. Thank y'all.